Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to a video for the Zombicide / Massive Darkness crossover. So they had released a small pack, which I've done a video before just showing off the cards, but in the time since then, I have now acquired majority of the Zombicide Black Plague game components, games and boxes and stuff. So I wanted to go through all of the character cards that are available that let you bring all of the characters from Massive Darkness 1 and 2 into Zombicide Black Plague and or Green Horde. So we're going to review them by showing off all the miniatures with each of their cards, and then we can talk about their abilities as well. So that's Zombicide into Massive Darkness. Alright, so I don't have the thing that shows off that, but basically it's the crossover. Yeah, so it's gonna let you bring all your different heroes and stuff into the other direction. I think this is the wrong booklet for it. Oh, here we go. Massive Darkness 2 heroes and enemies in Zombicide Fantasy. So you use the Massive Darkness heroes, simply choose your survivor card, take their miniature, and their ID card. There are also some new abominations that can be added in there. So we'll go over those when we get there. They're going to be special cards. But we're going to go over each one of these and their abilities. This may end up being a two-part video just for the length. But yeah, I probably went through this once. I did this video before when I first had it, so you can see what came in the box. But I didn't have any of the Zombicide, or I hadn't played any of the Zombicide or had any of the Zombicide stuff, so I was speculating on a lot, and I probably did look up what some of the cards and stuff and the abilities did. But now that I've unboxed and I've done some of those, we'll have a better idea. So I'm going to apologize for the glare, but we're going to stop. Now, these are in no particular order. These are every character from Massive Darkness 1 and 2. So whether it's the base game, the expansions, the Kickstarter content, it is all of them. So we'll be going through all of them. Alright, and they'll have their special symbol, so that's what they're from, and I'll read off their abilities as I go. And again, I'm going to apologize for the glare. Just, it's not much I can do when they're sleeved cards. Alright, that's probably about as best as I'm going to get. You're going to keep seeing glare on there, but they're sleeved. I'm not going to unsleeve them all for this video. So here's Valerie to start off. So we'll look at, there's her little miniature, definitely cool. Alright, so she starts with Tough, which basically says she has to ignore 1 free damage during each action. So it's definitely nice. She's supposed to be an assassin, so it works. She gets some daggers. Yellow is, of course, 1 free action. It's the same for everybody. Then she has Bloodlust, Melee, and Reaper Combat. Bloodlust Melee is going to let her move up to 2 spaces into a zone with a zombie and do a free melee attack. So this lets her get up close and personal as quick as she needs to. And then Reaper Combat is if at any time she uses a combat ability, melee, ranged, or magic, to take out a zombie, she can take out she takes out at least 1 zombie. She gets to eliminate a second zombie or an additional zombie of that type for free. So if she hops in, she eliminates 3 walkers and 2 runners. She could pick 1 walker or 1 runner to eliminate. Not 1 of each, not 1 for each type. But there's just some good ideas. And then her reg is +1 damage for combat, +1 free combat action, or +1 die roll for combat. So there's some good options there, depending on how you want to play and what you're getting into, what you prefer to do. Extra attacks, extra damage, or extra accuracy. So lots of options there. Going to just try and figure out where to put things here. So, we'll drop them there. Alright, up next we're going to look at Owen. Now again, I'm not going on these in any sort of order. We're going to different characters from each game. We're going to have different mix and matches and stuff. We just want to kind of see what they all do. So there's Owen in his double swords. He's one of the knights. So he has a shield as an extra item. He has Iron Hide, which, if I remember right, lets him roll as if he had a 4 shield. Let me just double check this. Iron Hide. Okay, make a armor roll with a +5 armor, even when he doesn't have body armor on. If he's wearing armor, he can add 1 to the result instead. So that's kind of neat. So basically, he's built-in armored. It's at a 5, so it's not super gonna help him all the time. But if he does put on armor, he can add 1 to whatever that roll is. So if he's wearing another armor that's +5, he'll always have +1 to that roll. If he gets some good armor, definitely helpful. And then there's orange, 1 for a melee action or taunt. Taunt will let him select a group of zombies, and they will then activate and try and move towards him, ignoring other survivors, ignoring survivors in their zone. So it's a good way to like pull the zombies away from someone that's dying, or maybe if they're heading towards that direction, get them away. Especially since he can do some extra attacks and take extra damage. And then he gets into his red, 1 free combat action, regeneration, and zombie link. So zombie link means every time a extra activation card is drawn, he gets to take an action first. So yeah, if you get extra activation for walkers, he gets to go before them, so he can either get to move or maybe do some attacks. A regeneration, at the end of each game round, remove all wounds the survivor has received. Regeneration does not work if they've been eliminated. So not only does this guy have built-in armor, which is going to be hard for him to take out, he can also regenerate. It'd be really hard to decide what to take. I mean, if he hasn't been taking much damage to begin with, you probably skip regeneration. But that's not a bad thing to have. Just go and throw in there. He's already going to take reduced damage, hopefully. Or he can taunt guys because he can afford to take a hit here and there because he's always going to come back to full health at the end of the round. Definitely brutal. Alright, let's look at another knight in that era. A knight that goes with him. That should be a yellow armor. She's got the full shield. Oops. This is Ostera, so they're cool. So we got the yellow armor. Maybe I'm gonna see if I can try and group some of these guys together. Because we have those two that go together. Oops. Dropping stuff. Sorry, guys. Oh, there we go. Alright. Also uses a shield. Has Reaper melee. So, now where Valerie had Reaper combat, which could use anything, Reaper melee means they only get to use that ability if they use a melee attack. But it also has Bloodlust melee and Iron Hides. We've already seen both of those. But there's some good options there. And then in red, 1 free combat action, 1 die roll to melee or shove. Shove will let them push a group of zombies to an adjacent tile to get them out of their way. So kind of like, yeah, that's kind of neat. So you can get in to kill stuff. You can dash in to kill stuff and then get that Reaper bonus off of it. Or you can always shove guys away if you're trying to like, hey, I don't want to die. Use your shield to kind of push guys away. I like this shove. Lots of times comes on guys that have shields in their picture. Because it's kind of showing them using that shield to push them away. And not like their sword or something else like that. Alright, our next character. Since we looked at Valerie, let's look at her counterpart here. So I have another one of these red masked, purple armored guys. Who is Sakaris. Who has big, giant daggers. So she had 2 little daggers, she has 2 big daggers. And there's pouches everywhere. So again, I think these are like assassins, if I remember right. Can hold a dagger. So he has Swordmaster to start with. Which I believe lets him use Treats all melee weapons as if they had the dual symbol. So you can use all melee weapons as a dual symbol. That's crazy. 'Cause, I mean, inconceivably means you could use 2 like warhammers as, you know, double wielding, which could be pretty badass. Orange has 1 free move action or melee plus 1 die. So get around quick or get a roll extra dice when you're doing melee. Definitely nice. With Sword Master, you're probably going to use melee. And then red, 1 free combat action, plus 1 die roll to melee, or melee plus 1 die. So didn't give you a roll 2 extra dice for everything, especially again if you're using something maybe like a great sword or something bigger that might not have a lot of dice. That can be helpful. Or even on the other hand, if you're using something small like daggers, which usually boost each other, they might start with like 3 or 4 dice to begin with. Then you add 2 extra dice. Now he's doing 6 dice. You know, with everything, he's going to potentially do a lot more damage that way. So that is pretty cool in and of itself. Do I have anybody else? We do have some more guys that go together, so let's keep going with that route. We're going to show off our white armored folk. So we have Sarah here to begin with. So although this, you can't tell, this is a lady, a woman. You can tell by the long hair, I guess. But this is a night elf, elf knight, I guess. Her name is Sarah, though. Definitely, I like the Inort shield. Not Inort. Now my brain can't pronounce that word right. Inort shield. Alright, she gets a dagger if she wants an extra weapon. She has Lifesaver. So I think, again, all of their equipment or their cards, though, are based off of the generic cards. So I don't think they have anything extra super weird. And, you know, she has Lifesaver, which lets you pull a survivor out of a group of zombies towards you. So that's nice and helpful. 1 free melee action or hit and run. Hit and run means after you've eliminated a zombie, you get a free move action. This is really nice. If you kill the last one, you could then run away, or you could run towards the next group. So depending on how many actions you have, how brave you are. I was trying to see here quick. The zombie does not spend extra actions to perform a free move if zombies are in his zone. So yeah, you only need to kill 1 zombie. So either you could eliminate the last one and then, okay, I don't have enough actions to move to kill more, so you can either run away so they have to come after you a bit. You could step into the next one if you have that as your first action. You could take out some more. Or if it's your last action for the turn, you could kill 1 guy and then back away. So definitely some interesting ideas there. You can also kill a guy, back away, and then, like, if zombies just moved on your zone, then use your Lifesaver to pull your buddies back out of their other survivors. And then red, 1 free combat action, 1 die roll to melee, or Dreadnought Walkers. Ooh, Dreadnought. Sounds pretty badass, doesn't it? Which is not listed in the main book. So let me check Black Plague. It might be part of, or Green Horde. It might be in Green Horde. It is not listed on here either. Alright, I'm gonna have to look this in 1 second. Alright, sadly it took me a little bit of looking up. So Dreadnought was, and that's why it sounded familiar, was the changed to Ironclad for Black Plague. So what it means is they can't take damage from them type of walkers. Dreadnought was the original term from the classic or modern Zombicide games. Yes, this is pretty cool. So they can pull people out, Sarah can run in and damage people, or with that hit and run, she could opt to, again, run in and keep doing more. She can't take damage from walkers. So if there's only walkers in the area, she can stick around. If there's runners or abominations, she can choose to scoot out of there. So that is definitely fun for her. Alright, up next, our other white knighted elf. There's a big tall shield, which is really cool. And the spear. And this is Azrael. Yes, we get a second knight elf. Who can also use a dagger. So he has Born Leader, which lets you give a action token to another survivor, which they have to use on their turn or they lose it. But it lets them have a free action during their turn, which is pretty fun. Hang one of them out. And then orange, 1 free move action or 1 die roll for melee. So we'll know what do you need, where do you need him to be. And then red is +1 damage for melee, 1 free combat action or Iron Hide. So extra defense because of course he's wearing armor. You see how these guys are like breaking the mold or doing anything super spectacular, but they're all definitely all sturdy characters. Alright, so we kind of been bouncing back and forth between knights and stealthy characters. So let's stay with that route. And we'll go another group of assassins here. This one is Silence. She definitely is all cloaked, does not want to know who he is, and of course Silence dictates he probably doesn't want you to ever hear him. Uses a dagger, +1 free move action, so right off the bat can get around quicker. In orange, 1 free melee action or Lucky. Lucky lets you reroll all your dice, but you have to roll even the successes as well as the failures. But hey, if you roll really bad, this can be very helpful in a pinch. And then red is +1 die roll for melee, bloodlust melee, or slippery. Slippery lets you ignore the number of zombies when you need to move. So normally it costs 1 action to move. If there's one zombie, it costs you 2 actions, 1 for regular, 1 per zombie. If there are 5 zombies, you have to spend 6 to move. You can just ignore them. And then also having them free move actions means you can essentially move through zombies fairly quick and get across the board. So if you just need him to avoid people and get right through everything, and then his extra free melee action is kind of fun. So you can run in, slash someone, move out of there, slash somebody else, like kind of just do a little damage as he runs through crowds, rather than trying to take out the entire group all at once. So Silence is accompanied by Whisper. Just serrated daggers. I love those little pointy bits off of them. And again, another quiet ninja type. Ninja? Assassin? Whatever. But she can use the crossbow. This is the first character I've seen that has a different sub-weapon. +1 damage for melee. In orange, 1 free melee action or hit and run. So definitely nice there. And then red, 1 free combat, 1 free move action or Reaper combat. So all things we've seen before. But yeah, it's kind of neat. So like, she can definitely get in there. That hit and run could be very useful if you're using the free combat action or your free crossbow. You can hold in your slot because you could run up, stab people with your extra melee damage, which can definitely help. I mean, she can do 2 to 3 damage right off the bat, depending on what weapon she has. And then she could back away and then shoot guys at a distance if she needs to. So that's definitely cool. Then the third member of this little group, which I mean might not be 100% in there, is Mist. Just Silence and Whisper, I know Mist doesn't fit right in there, but he kind of fits because he's sort of a, definitely feels like a stealthy character. 2 big giant swords, but he's just like, looks like he's probably like made of mist, or he's just misting out of him. Not really sure, he's maybe an ethereal being. But he has breaking, which means he can get into doors without making noise. That could be very helpful. To not draw your attention. I kind of wish it was maybe down a little bit lower, but I guess it makes sense to have it right away so you can use it right off the bat. Then he has 1 zone per move and slippery, so he can move 2, instead of moving only 1 space, he can now move up to 2. And then red, he has one free, or plus 1 damage for melee, 1 free melee action, or Reaper melee. Yes, he uses first bunch, his breaking and his movement and his slippery to kind of get around. And then when he hits red, he's kind of like, alright, now I'm ready to start dealing some damage. So that's pretty fun there. And let's just kind of keep this little going back and forth together. We went through our armored elves. Let's look at our regular elves. So we have a bow wielder, which, oh, she's holding her dagger or sword in the scarab. So this is Sybil. She got like that leaf cloak or skirt, which is really cool. The hair is really neat, all over the place. I'm just knocking guys over left and right in here, aren't I? Okay, she has a dagger, which kind of you can see. She has 1 zone per move, plus 1 action, and then in orange, 1 free ranged action, or plus 1 die roll for range. This is the first character we've seen that really has ranged. But you kind of get that option. Do you want the extra attack or the extra dice? And then in red, 1 free die roll for melee, 1 free combat, or hit and run. So again, giving you that, in that red, kind of which way you need to go. And again, his characters aren't very super like, I want to say creative, because they're all very good characters. They're all very well done. No overpowered characters. I guess that would be the word I'm looking for. So here we have our other elf friend, and this is Sylvan. So he's got the 2 big swords. I like how he's holding the swords with a bow on him, but he's kind of like the ranged character, and the other one was almost like a melee-ish character. Alright. Plus 1 damage for range. That's cool. Extra damage when you're doing range is not bad at all. 1 free range attack or ambidextrous, which does survivor treats all combat spells, melee, and ranged weapons as if they had dual symbols. So he can treat everything as if he has dual, which is better than the other one we had where they could only, the sword master could only do it with melee weapons. He can do it with everything. Yep, so that's pretty cool. Definitely gets him some extra things. And then plus 1 die to combat, 1 free combat action, or hit and run. Hit and run is very popular, it seems. Hopefully that's just because of the group of characters we have. The melee, the elves and the melee characters. Or stealthy characters. So, alright, let's jump into our next little group. Let's look at a different race we haven't seen yet. We haven't went over the dwarves. We got a couple of dwarves here. So we're going to start with Siegfried, which is giant beard and giant hair ponytail, but he's got his little daggers. Spiky shield, his coarse little tiny warhammer. He's gonna break some bones. He just uses a hammer in his slot. He has Frenzy Combat. Frenzy Combat will let him all weapons and combat spells the survivor carries gain plus 1 die per wound suffered. Dual weapons each gain a die. So every time he takes damage, his melee attacks get stronger. Then he has 1 die for combat, bloodlust melee, so he wants to get in there and do some damage anyhow. And then red, plus 1 damage for melee, 1 free combat action or taunt. Definitely cool. Taunt, get guys towards him, maybe he can take out 1 or 2 at a time. Maybe take a hit just so he can get that combat frenzy up. That could definitely be cool. And then our other dwarf here, she's wearing a lot more armor. So the other one's more of a barbarian. She's more of like a knight. But she's definitely got some cool armor on. There's like the back side. And this is Gira. Garrett can use an axe. I don't know why some of these characters didn't have a picture of the weapon on their card. It's probably a little mistake, but oh well. She starts with tough, so she can absorb that hit of damage. One die for combat, so one die to any combat, not just melee, she can range, magic, whatever, or Ironhide, so she can absorb them extra hits. So now that she has tough, where she ignores the first damage she takes, she can also get Ironhide, which then lets her also, if she would take more damage, potentially ignore it. And then in red, she has 1 damage for melee, 1 free combat action, or shove. So she can definitely be a beat stick, extra dice, extra damage, you know, or take damage but get extra, or shove people away. Hey, I took taking too much damage, shove them off. Definitely could be pretty cool. Alright, up next we're going to look at some more stealthy characters, because that's what I had. Up next is we have these purple guys with armor, but they have like this circle on their heads. I'm not really sure what that's for. It's part of their aesthetic though, but this is Victoria. So there's her damaged up cape, cloak. She can use a healing scroll. Ooh, so she's a kind of maybe paladin-y type character. So +1 die roll for melee. Not bad. +1 die roll to magic or Ironhide. So either free armor or extra roll for either your magic or your melee. And then 1 damage for combat, 1 free combat action, or bloodlust melee. So, ooh, so she can kind of, a couple of different options she can do there. What do you want to be a magic caster? Do you want to be a melee caster? At the end, do you want the extra damage, or do you want that extra action? Pretty cool. Then we have her partner, I guess, her other guy, who has like this spiked ball on the chain. That's really fun, plus like a pike. So this guy, first guy doesn't have like a traditional weapon set. Then his like kind of like hood or cloak is down. And this is of course Melius, who also can use a healing scroll. He has bloodlust magics. Now he can move up to 2 spaces into a spot with another zombie and use a magic attack. So that could be pretty fun. +1 action, 1 die for combat, or spellbook. Spellbook, I believe, lets you use all your actions that are in your backpack. Let me double check. All combat spells and enhancements in the survivor's inventory are considered equipped in hand. So yeah, he can use stuff right from his hand, so he can have basically, lots of dual casting that way. 1 free combat action, lucky, and spellcaster. Spellcaster gives him 1 extra action, but only for a magic combat or an enhancement. So he doesn't get 1 for like ranged or magic attacks, ranged or melee attacks, but only for the combat spells or enhancements. But since he also uses spellbook and he can double up on them, and when he has bloodlust magic, he can give him some beefy combat spells. He can go to town on everybody. So that's definitely cool there. Alright, let's see who we have next. Alright, up next was we missed a dwarf, so we want to show off another dwarf warrior. Definitely cool. So we had one that's like a barbarian, one that was kind of like a full-on knight. This one's kind of like the mix between. So this is Zoe, or Zoe. Shell shield, little spiky helmet, which is really fun. She's going to use a hammer, and then she has taunt. She can bring guys towards her. 1 free melee action or frenzy combat. So frenzy again lets her do extra damage for everything, but hers is combat. It doesn't matter what type of damage it, or what type of attack it is. Then 1 free combat action, barbarian and Ironhide. So barbarian we haven't seen yet. If I remember right, it lets you roll a lot of extra dice. but let's just read to make sure we're correct. Resolving a melee action, a survivor may substitute the dice number of the melee weapon chooses with the number of zombies. +1 effects and stuff still work. So basically that means if she has a hammer that would normally, like, maybe it does like 3 damage, but whatever, but it has one die roll. So instead of rolling 1 dice, if she's fighting 4 zombies, she can roll 4 just to take out one die for every zombie in there. The only time that's going to necessarily be, I don't think it's ever going to be bad, because the worst case would be if you have a weapon that can roll 3 and there's less than 3, just don't use Barbarian. You're not forced to use it even if you have it equipped. Alright, so now we've got a bunch of melee characters and that. Let's look at some magic users, but we're going to look at dark magic users. So we're going to start with this dude, who looks very satanic with the pentagrammy type shape on him, the doubly horns. And this is, of course, Ajax. He's got the little skull staff. He looks like he's going to cause some trouble. So he can hold Dragon Bile, which is really cool. Doesn't start with it, but he gets to hold it. So that way you always have it on hand without him having to spend his magic slots for it. He starts with +1 damage for his magic attack, which is really good. +1 die for magic or slippery. And then in red, 1 free combat action, +1 dice roll for magic or regeneration. Definitely cool regenerations. Again, really could be really fun. But just, he got 1 damage, 1 die, and +1 to any of his dice rolls for magic, which could make his magic attacks very powerful. He could take out a lot of guys very quickly, especially since they're all ranged. Then, to go with him, we got his, I'm guessing it's probably apprentice, or at least partner in crime, which is carrying a giant fire torch. I wonder what she's going to be able to help him with. Big giant horns. So, because this is Moira, and Moira gets to start with the torch. So if you have both of them, they could be running around Dragon Biles and a torch ready to go at any time. Basically in sake of having armor. So that's actually a really cool combination. +1 die roll for magic. Then orange, 1 free magic action or hit and run. And then in red, 1 damage for magic. On a roll of 6, they roll 1 extra die for magic. And Zombie Link, so that extra attack earlier. So the roll 6 is really cool. So if at any time they roll the number 6 on a die, they get 1 extra die. So if you roll 3 dice and one of them is a 6, you're gonna roll another die. So now you get that hit, you get to roll an additional die. And if that happens to be 6, you get to roll it again. And it can keep going as long as you roll 6s. So that's definitely cool. But I don't believe you can use lucky on any of the rerolls. Or if you do, it's only for the reroll. It's one or the other. You can't pick and choose. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, she works very well with Ajax. They make a formidable team. So our next dark magic user is not even human. This guy's a literal devil. He's got the hooved feet, the horns, the red skin. He has a little magic fire coming off his hand. This is Ego. So Ego may hold any combat spell, so he doesn't care. So this guy's a little bit more broken. He has Spellbook, which lets him use any combat spell or enchantment he has in his inventory as if it were in his hand, so he can cast even more. And then in red or orange, he has +1 die for magic or spellcaster, which spellcaster gives him an extra free action for magic attacks. And then +1 damage for magic, +1 free magic action, or 2 zones per move action. So it's kind of neat. So up until the end, everything is just giving him extra magic. Do you want to be able to cast an extra time, or do you want an extra die for better accuracy? Then you hit red, is do you want that extra magic attack, or do you want to be able to do more damage? But it's kind of neat because he has that 2 zones per move, so it's also kind of like he gets to red, he realizes I need to get away from all these zombies and be able to do it quick. I can attack at range with magic. That lets him move very far away very fast. So he kind of gets a good gallop going, I guess. Alright. Our next group are going to be, let's look at a different class. We have the Tinkerers. So they're Tinkerers from the Massive Darkness set. So this guy's kind of cool because he's in like a steampunk wheelchair. This is not something you really see too much of, but it makes for a cool designed character. He's got this huge wrench. But yeah, that's really neat. Even just for the fact of throwing it in. We have Jebediah. He may hold any equipment instead. So he gets anything in there. That's actually pretty cool. He has Sprint, which makes sense. It's a movement ability. Lets you move an extra space every turn. And then orange is 1 free melee action or free reload. So some of the items have either reload for bolts or arrows. He just could do it for free. So instead of having to spend an action to reload them or wait till the next round, he can do at least 1 every turn. Or every round or whatever. So that's pretty fun. Makes sense, he's mechanically inclined. And then he has 1 free melee action, 1 free movement action, or Ironclad Walker. So yeah, do you want him to be a melee character? Do you want him to have movement to be able to get around even more? Or do you want to have him be able to be impervious to Walker types? He's not scared of the small fry. Definitely some fun abilities on him. And then to go with him, we have Kaylee, who's our other engineer. She has a hammer and a wrench, plus another hammer on her hilt, plus a knife, of course. Just also a pretty cool pose. So that's Kaylee. Also hold any type of equipment, has ambidextrous, so stuff counts as dual action. She has charge and tricky shot. Charge lets you move an extra up to 3 zones, if I remember correctly. Moves, use a skill for free as often as they like. Moves up to 2 zones to a zone containing at least 1 zombie. Okay, so they get a free essential move action. But they have to move into a zone with an enemy. So that's the only downside part of it. And then Tricky Shot is survivors equipped with dual combat spells or ranged weapons can aim at different zones with the same action. So that's kind of fun. You can shoot guns in different ways or bows in different ways. 1 free combat action, shove, and slippery. So again, kind of like, get away from me or let me get away from you. But that's kind of neat. The Tricky Shot's kind of a fun one. We don't see that one too often. Alright, so we're going to go through 3 more for this video, and then we'll end for part 2. That's about half of the characters. We're going to look at a group of barbarians, because we need some muscle in this game. So here's our big hulking, muscly man with his giant axe. I like how he's kind of holding it casually there, like just sitting there. But then you look at his miniature, he's almost like in his half swing. So they change up his pose a little bit in there. And this is Bjorn. So he can hold a short bow, which is very interesting, very Viking-like. Bloodlust melee, plus 1 damage for melee or 1 free melee action, and in red, 1 free combat action, plus 1 die roll for melee or shove. Very straightforward barbarian type character. And I think some of what you're going to see in this is if it's like most of the Zombicide games, is if it's a base game character, which I think this guy was from base game Massive Darkness. We might have been from Massive Darkness too. But yeah, I think the base game characters are a little bit more simplistic, versus we just looked at the engineers. They're from an expansion pack, so they had a little bit more interesting abilities. And I think they did that because if you're adding in characters that are base game set relatively easy to find, they want to make them simpler for people to be able to mix and match or use in, versus characters from expansions, which are, it's just to make the game a little bit like, hey, I've played the game a bunch, let me add this more experienced character. So I think that's what we're kind of seeing with some of these characters. Alright, then we have a female barbarian. Still has the blue marks on her face, so she's probably from the same group or clan. Of course, she has that skimpy all-protective armor that all female barbarians need. I love the fur cloak, though. That is really cool. And this is Mila. So she can also use a short bow. She has shove right away. Gets people away, so she can use her bow if she needs to. +1 die roll for melee, bloodlust melee, and in red, 1 damage melee, 1 free combat action, and then jump. Jump is fun, lets you move up to 3 spaces, or 3 zones. Or up, is it 2 or 3 zones? I always forget which one it is. But it lets them ignore whatever would be in the middle. Can move 2 zones into a zone which has a line of sight. So they can basically jump over a full zone, ignoring whatever enemies were in there. They still have penalized if they land, if they have zombies in their zone, so they can't just jump away from guys. But that's just you shove for, if she had to. But yeah, jump is really cool. Get around guys, jump over a hedge if you had to, or jump over a barricade. I don't know why you would jump over a hedge. You could jump over the hedge into the next zone to the other side, so even if you had to spawn a zombie, it wouldn't be on your space. Definitely some interesting things there. Or, in the watering holes, jump up a ledge, so you could use this to just jump straight up if you wanted to. Cool. And our last character for part 1 is going to be our other barbarian. But he doesn't have any blue markings, so he's probably from a different group. But he's dual-wielding axes, which is pretty damn badass. Alright, and this is Ivan. Ivan may hold any axe. So that's cool, any axe. Frenzy combat, so more damage if he takes damage. +1 die for combat, bloodlust melee, and then 1 free melee, +1 damage for melee, 1 free combat action, or shove. So, yeah, very stereotypical barbarian abilities. There's only so much they can do. Although, not a single barbarian had the barbarian skill, which is kind of interesting. You thought at least one of them would have carried that. Alright, so that's what we got for the Master Darkness crossover part 1. See you guys in part 2 if you want to see the rest of the characters.